Disclaimer: this is audio horror fiction. If darkness or the creatures it holds scares you, leave now. Still listening? Good. Then let's begin. The first time I saw her was at a bus stop late at night. It was a little after 3 a.m. I had been the designated driver for several friends after a celebration, and now I was driving home in a light drizzle of rain. When I first saw her there, huddled on the bench and shivering, I drove past. Then guilt hit me and I had to turn around. I may be slipping quickly into old age, but I still remember how scary it can be a young woman in the middle of the city, especially alone at night. I pulled up to the stop and offered her a ride. At first she declined, shaking her head and calling back, "No thanks," from the bench. When I told her there were no more buses at this stop until dawn, she reluctantly came over and got into my car. Half an hour later I dropped her off at a dark apartment complex, only a little out of my way, and told her to be safe. The next time I saw her, I'll admit, I didn't recognize her. It was about 2 weeks later. I was in the parking lot of the grocery store, about to head home. I placed my bags in the trunk of my car and walked the cart over to its spot. When I turned around, there she was, standing next to my car. She looked nervous, shy, maybe a little ashamed. When I approached, she asked if I had a couple of bucks for the bus. Everything is plastic, so I rarely carry cash. I managed to fish out about $1 and change. She thanked me and walked off. It wasn't until I was driving home that I realized she was the same girl from the bus stop. It's a small world. Less than a week later, I ran into her again. Pouring rain during rush hour traffic meant that everything was moving at a standstill. As I sat in my car, waiting for everyone to move forward, I saw her walking up the sidewalk. She was soaking wet, wrapping a thin jacket around herself. I rolled down the window and yelled, asking if she needed a ride somewhere. At first she only stood and stared. Then she smiled and ran over to hop into my car. She was heading to the university, which was definitely out of my way. With the weather and the traffic, I really did not want to make the extra trip, so I offered to take her until the intersection. We sat in silence for most of the ride. I tried to make small talk at first, but all she would do is smile, then turn to look out the window. As the intersection approached, I felt bad about dropping her off in the rain, still so far from where she was going. When I offered to take her the rest of the way, she turned to me and smiled. "Not many people stop and offer rides to strangers," she said. She was picking at the hem of her jacket, her fingers fidgeting like she was nervous or in a hurry. "Yeah, a lot of people are wrapped up in their own lives, or just don't care, but most are probably afraid. It can be dangerous to pick up strangers." "Do you think I'm dangerous?" she asked. She was watching me intently now, her fingers still picking at the hem. "No," I glanced over and smiled. "You don't need live as long as me without learning to read people. It's all about body language and listening to your gut." She was quiet the rest of the car ride, except for the occasional direction. Finally, we pulled up in a dimly lit parking lot behind some tall buildings. I remember noticing there were no other cars around and wondering if this was actually part of the campus. As she unbuckled her seatbelt, she paused, looking out the window into the rain. "You know, even at your age, you can still be wrong about some people." She turned slowly in her seat, staring at me with pitch black eyes. Her mouth spread into an unnaturally wide smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. Sighing, I grabbed her throat with my claws and pulled her face as close to mine as possible. She started squirming and trying to get out of my grasp when the flames began pouring out of my eyes. "Trust me," You really don't live as long as me unless you can read people. Thank you all so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to leave a like and subscribe and share to help feed the dark machine.